What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. We're going to be breaking down LFA 111 today. So this is the first of two, I believe, Brazil-based cards that they're going to be doing. So it should be a really good card. It actually looks like it's going to be one of the best LFA cards of the year so far, just in terms of the talent that they have out here. And I'll be completely honest, in some spots I don't really know too much about the fighters. Obviously I'm a lot more familiar with the North American regional scene than I am with Brazil, so if there's a matchup that I don't know too much about, and there's a couple on this card, I will 100% be honest with you guys and let you know. But there's also a couple where I feel like I do have a pretty good read, so this might be a little bit of a shorter video today, but without further ado, let's just get right into the fights. So opening up the card, we have Eduardo Neves coming up against Eduardo Silva, heavyweight bout. And yeah, I'll be completely honest, like I said in this one, I don't really know too much about either of these fighters. So Neves is 3-0. He has 3 finishes. He fought once a year for the last 3 years. His most recent fight was in February. Only 22 years old, so still pretty young. Definitely, going to be making improvements. Then we have Silva on the other side of the cage. He's 1-0. 1-0 as an amateur, also 1-0 as a pro. He's 6'7", so really tall guy. It's just over the last 3 years he hasn't fought. It's been a 3-year layoff, so that activity level really isn't too good. So I'm gonna lean towards Neves here. He has more fights, more wins, more active. I mean, younger. That's kind of what I'm gonna be basing this pick off of. Like I said, I really don't know too much about either of these guys. So if you know something I don't, go ahead and do what you want to do. But yeah, I don't really have a great read on this one. The lean is gonna be Neves though. Then up next, we have some strawweight action between Yasmin Castanho and Maristela Alves. And both these fighters, 4-0. Castanho's coming off a round 1 armbar in her last fight. That was on Tora MMA. Still quite young, 24 years old. Alves, on the other hand, also undefeated at 4-0. She's a little older, 29. She's fought more recently, but all her wins have come against debuting fighters. So I think I'm going to slightly lean with Castanho here. She's just fought, Tora MMA is probably the best promotion that either of these fighters have fought in. She was able to get a finish there in her last fight, and Alves hasn't fought anyone that isn't 0-0 yet, so I feel like that favors Castanho a little bit, and that's going to be my pick. But once again, guys, I really don't know much about either of these fighters, so it's not, an ultra-high confidence pick. So now we have Carlos Mota versus Rodrigo Roldan at 125 pounds, flyweight matchup. And Carlos Mota actually do know, so that's a nice change from the first 2 fights. He's 5-0, undefeated 26-year-old prospect. Picked up some nice wins on Chuto Brazil. He had a 2-year layoff, then picked up a win over George Martinez on LFA. And I don't really mind the layoffs as much with younger fighters because I feel like they're probably using that time to, soak up knowledge, make some improvements, really round out certain aspects of their game. But it does worry me a little bit that he's essentially had another 2-year layoff now before this fight. And I mean, I guess he was supposed to fight Victor Altamirano for the flyweight belt in LFA earlier this year. And you know what? A lot of people liked his chances in that fight. I kind of liked his chances in that one a little bit too, but Altamirano is pretty tricky, and I didn't really do like a super deep dive into that. Obviously, Altamirano ended up fighting Nate Smith, I believe it was, that he fought, and he ended up winning the belt. And now they just did an interim title fight for 125, actually, where Charles Johnson just won a decision over Yuma Horiyuchi. But yeah, back to the fight at hand. Mota is a pretty big guy for 125. He's got some power, and I just really like what I've seen out of him so far. He's definitely a very promising prospect, as his record would indicate, and he does look good. Actually, he passes the eye test as well. Now, looking at Rodrigo Roldan, 4-3 Argentinian prospect. Not the greatest record, but he's still decently young at 27. Hasn't really fought the greatest competition. He fought Titan FC fighter Victor Diaz in his pro debut. He lost that one. And other than that, he has a couple not great, looking losses on his record, and then some not so impressive wins. It's kind of tough to judge him off that. But, coming in against Carlos Mota here, man, that's really going to be a tough matchup, I think. I feel like Mota is definitely the side here, and that's going to be my pick. And I'm pretty confident that Mota will get it done. Now, moving on to Rodolfo Bellato coming up against Carlos Eduardo, light heavyweight scrap here. And Bellato 6-1, coming off, slightly over 2 years layoff. Picked up a nice win in his last fight, but like I said, that was over 2 years ago. Training at Team Nogueira, as far as I know. He's a prolific finisher. Hasn't really faced a big challenge yet, though, so that's one thing that I am keeping in mind with this matchup. And then having a look at Carlos Eduardo, 5-1. I'd say he's definitely fought the better competition out of the two, but also, he hasn't fought since 2019, so both of these guys are kind of even in that regard. 24 years old for Eduardo, probably, making more of his time off, looking for things to improve and stuff like that, kind of like what I said earlier about, layoffs with younger fighters. I don't mind it as much, and I just feel like Eduardo is showing better progress, better momentum, and he's succeeded in more challenging situations than Bellato has, so for those reasons, I'm going to be going with Carlos Eduardo in this one. I feel like it definitely could be a close fight. Both guys are still, relatively green, but Eduardo is going to be my lean here. I feel like he's just slightly better in this matchup. Now we have a really interesting matchup here at 155 pounds between Arthur Lima and Rodrigo Lidio. So Lima's 9-1, 25 years old. This fight opened at a pick'em. He's now shifted to the slight favorite. He's on a 3-fight win streak, has a lot of experience, had some fights over in Russia, had a win on ACB. You love to see that. His one loss is to Pavel Gordiev. And Gordiev was 12-1 at the time. He's now 18-2. He just won a fight on ACA last month. So that has aged pretty well, especially considering that Lima's only 25 years old. And he's also training with Pitbull Brothers. So as you guys know, I just said it on my my last video too, I really like that camp. I think really highly of it. And Lima's just a really young and hungry guy, ready to go into the fire. Just picked up a sub win earlier this year, and I really like what I see out of Arthur Lima so far. And looking at Rodrigo Lidio at 11-2, he's also really good. And this is a really close matchup here. It's pretty hard to choose. I mean, Lidio did just beat Adelson Fernandez in his last fight, who was an Ultimate Fighter Brazil contestant. Lidio has a lot of finishes, more mature in terms of fighting experience, and then also physically speaking. 32 years old, definitely grown into his man body, as they say. He has a lot of power, and I think he might have a striking advantage here. It's definitely possible. So in this one, I mean, I do really like Lima, but if there was one underdog spot that I probably would say I like the most on this card, it might actually be Lidio here. As far as a straight up pick, I think I am going to still go with Lima, just because, I like that experience over in Russia. I like the camp that he trains out of. And I'm going to lean slightly with Lima, but I do think that Lidio is definitely a live dog, and I don't think that's a bad bet at all to have some money on him. But in terms of just a straight up pick, I'm going to be going with Arthur Lima to get it done in this one. So that brings us to the co-main event of the evening between Ari Farias and Marcos Breno at bantamweight. And this was the fight that really jumped off the page for me when I looked at this card originally. Ari Farias 10-2. He's a very hot prospect in my opinion. Pretty insane jiu-jitsu resume. He's a black belt under Ramon Lemos, IBJJF world champion twice, European Open champion, Brazilian national champion. So many more achievements, but you get the idea. In the interest of time, we're going to cut it off there. He's on a 5-fight win streak in MMA right now. Most recently beat Johnny Campbell, who just beat Henry Corrales on Bellator. A really nice win for Johnny Campbell. And then it reflects well on Farias here. As a result, Farias has 2 wins on ACB. That's pretty high level as far as regional fights go. He's fought on LFA before. That was back in 2019. Was able to get a first-round rear naked choke. And that fight was against Devontae Sewell, who's a really good wrestler. And Farias was able to take him down and put him to sleep late in that round. Farias is in excellent physical shape. He's built like an ox at 135. Good pressure, comes forward. Primarily a grappler, but he can stand. He's got some nice kicks, has some pop on his punches. He likes the spinning back fist. Pretty good ground and pound. He had a fight with Simon Oliveira, who was 13-2 at the time. He is now 17-3. Dropped him right away and then dominated him for 4 minutes. Then got reversed, took some damage in the last minute of the first round, stood up with seconds to go and got dropped himself. And then in the second round, it started a little rocky, but he's able to get back and start doing his thing, dominating, threatening with submissions. Definitely took the first 2 rounds. Third round, he catches a kick and gets it down, gets straight to business once again. Oliveira able to get up a few times, but Farias just keeps getting him down. It was a very clear 30-27 win over a very good opponent. One judge had 29-28, not really sure how, but still easy unanimous decision for him. So I really like what I see out of Ari Farias. And this fight opened, I want to say, like, maybe he was around -115, -120. I was able to get him at -130. Now he's kind of anywhere between -150 to -165-ish, around there. So obviously some money has been coming in on him. I really like this pick. This was my favorite pick on the card. I was really happy to get this at -130. Yeah, Farias is just a prospect I really like. And now looking across the cage at Marcos Breno, definitely no slouch over there either. 13-2, still very young at 23 years old, and just a crazy amount of fights for his age. But the thing is, he just hasn't really fought the same level of competition as Farias had. Breno did fight Taylor Lapilus on Aries FC, and Taylor Lapilus is a really good fighter. I feel like Farias would be a little bit more competitive with him than Breno was. Two judges had a 30-26 for Lapilus, one had 29-28. And Breno, I just felt like was a little bit overmatched there. And you know, like I said, I feel like Farias would have been a little bit more competitive in that spot. Breno is very talented. I'm not counting him out at all. You know, there's a reason this line opened so close. Breno is a very promising prospect, but Farias is built like a tank. You know, he's physically mature and just fought a lot of better guys as well. So Farias is going to be my pick in this one, and I did put a little bit of money on him at -130. And with that, we have arrived at the main event for this card between Rangel Dessau and Ismail Bonfim at 155 pounds. This should be another really good fight. It's just a really good card overall. A lot of talented guys here. So Dessau, 10-1. He's currently on a 6-fight win streak. So he's looking really good lately. He's looking, you know, in prime condition. The last 4 of those were on Chuto Brazil. You know, that's a pretty good promotion. Picked up a slam KO in his last fight, so he's in really fine form right now. He's been looking really good. Definitely passes the eye test. Has a lot of finishes. Very physically strong guy. He hits really hard, and you know, you kind of forget he's only 24 because he's very experienced for his age. The same thing could be said for his opponent in Ismail Bonfim, who's 14-3 at only 25 years old, and he has more experience, but just the level of competition is not as high. With that said, he did fight Renato Moicano in 2014, lost that one via round 1 submission, and he also fought the current 1FC champion Adriano Moraes, who just beat Demetrius Johnson. That was on the regional scene in 2011, lost that one as well. So those are 2 of his losses, right? Those aren't too bad. He's basically 14-1. I mean, those guys are really, really high-level guys. Granted, it was quite a long time ago, but still, you know, like I said, only 25 years old, so he was very young when he was facing both of those guys. He has lots of experience for his age. Ultimately, though, I think I'm going to go with Dessau. I just like what I've seen out of him lately. He's won his last 6, last 4 on Chuto Brazil, and he's been doing it in style, fighting pretty good level competition, whereas I feel like Bonfim hasn't really been facing the same level of guys. But this is a really close matchup. You definitely understand why it was lined closely. And it's really tough to call, but I am going to slightly lean with Rangel Dessau in this one. So that's going to do it for my predictions for LFA 111 Dessau vs Bonfim. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate every single one of my supporters. Thank you guys very much. If you bet this weekend, make sure to bet smart, and best of luck. Hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.